Hello, and welcome to the Sci-Fi Christian book reviews brought to you by the Sci-Fi-Christian.com. I'm Ben DeBono, here on my way to go see the new Simon Pegg movie, At the World's End, which I will probably review on the way home of this whole filming while driving thing, which I think that's legal. I mean, it's like, it can't be worse than talking on the phone, right? My eyes are on the road, so, you know, it's not like, it's probably even better than talking on the phone, certainly better than texting or whatever. But in any case, it's what I'm doing tonight, and I'm actually going to talk to you about the final novel in Peter Straub's Blue Rose trilogy, The Throat, which I have just finished today. You know, maybe let's see if we can get some good light. Is that better? Maybe that's better. Well, I think for the sake of being able to see out the rearview mirror, there's only certain limits I will go to sacrifice safety for production value, so we'll leave the lights off. But final novel in Peter Straub's Blue Rose trilogy, the third out of 5 books that feature Tim Underhill as the primary protagonist. There are 2 shorter books, Lost Boy, Lost Girl, and In the Night Room, that follow this one. Much shorter, actually. At least according to the audiobook version, this one was like 27 hours, and Lost Boy, Lost Girl is only 9 hours, so a third of the size. I don't remember those well enough to tell you right now what the primary difference was between those and the Blue Rose trilogy. But I will, and I'm listening to Lost Boy, Lost Girl now, so I'll be hopefully able to fill you in on that as I get there. So final novel in the Blue Rose trilogy. First one, Coco, which if you remember, I thought was an absolute masterpiece. I love that one. 5 stars. Mystery, still very, very good. Just a step below what was going on in Coco. I think I give that one 4.5 stars if memory serves me correctly. And The Throat, I think, is really close, maybe not quite as good as Coco, but right up on that level. This is a really good conclusion to the trilogy, and it really brings things together both plot-wise and thematically. As I've talked about in the last 2 reviews for this series, one of the big themes in the trilogy is this sense of identity and duality, and how people aren't really what they seem, and that gets built on in different ways in the first 2 books. So then we get to The Throat, and we have that same theme, but we're presented it in a very different way. A lot of the ways that we get it in this novel, even though we do get that sense of duality and split identity and who's really who, and, you know, people aren't who, nobody in this novel is really who they appear, we also get a sense that fiction and stories themselves have a duality to them. I talked in Mystery about how there's a level of intentional contradiction going on between that book and Coco, and right at the beginning of The Throat, Peter Straub acknowledges that. In fact, it's very interesting because he breaks the 4th wall within the first few pages of The Throat. Tim Underhill is the narrator of this one, and he, at the very beginning of the book, tells us that he wrote 2 novels, Coco and Mystery, with this guy named Peter Straub. Now, Peter Straub never enters into the book as a character, which is good. I think this is about as far as I would have wanted him to go, breaking the 4th wall. Anything more, and it would have become gratuitous, but this works pretty well. And then we get this whole sense throughout the book of Tim Underhill throughout the book is reading the Gnostic Gospels, the Nag Hammadi library. There's this sense of Platonic dualism that's taking place in the novel. This sense of that reality as we're experiencing it might not be fully true. It might just be the shadows on Socrates' cave being cast by the true reality, and that fiction and stories are a way to get at this deeper truth. And so it really, that theme right there, which is spelled out brilliantly at the beginning and runs throughout the entire book, is a way to kind of tie the bow on this series thematically for this trilogy, in the sense that we have 3 different books that you could look at all three of these and say, this is not a trilogy, these are so radically different, they should not be considered part of the same trilogy. Or you could look at all three of these and say he's writing the same book 3 times. And that's absolutely fascinating to me, that you could make both those claims and make a really strong argument in either direction for what he's doing here. Because there's so much intentional contradiction, there's so much sense of things just being slightly different from book to book to book, things being flipped. For example, another thing, this isn't a spoiler because we find it out right at the beginning, is that in Mystery, that opens with Tom Passmore, who's also a character in this novel, being hit by a car. And at the beginning of this novel, Throat, Tim Underhill, as the narrator, tells us that that event actually happened to him, and he put it into Mystery as though it's happening to Tom Passmore. So we get these flipping of events, we get these flipping of people. The Blue Rose murders come back most prominently in this one, after they've really just been hinted at a little bit in Coco and a little more in Mystery. They're very prominent here, but with that same sense of duality, that same sense of intentional contradiction as the story is going on, and there is a really good mystery plot at the center of this, and that's part of what I love about this series, is that Peter Straub's actually telling really good stories. He's just also telling them in a thematically fascinating way. And so there's this good mystery plot at the center of this, but he, there we go. Go around a turn there, and there I am. Okay, we're back. There's this good mystery plot at the center of this, but Peter Straub uses that for his thematic ends as well, because by the end of the novel, there are very few, I'm just slipping all over the place. There are very few prominent characters who we don't at one point believe are the killer, okay? So most of the characters in this novel at one point or another appear to be the killer, who I won't even get into what he's involved with. Makes for a great story, makes for thematically compelling work. I'm not going to get too much into the plot. I've kind of already told you about as much as you really need to know, that the Blue Rose murders really came to the forefront in this. We spend a lot more time in Millhaven than we do in the other books. So I suppose if you look at Milwaukee, which is the Caribbean island that's kind of the stand-in for Millhaven in Mystery, we probably spend about as much time there in that book as we do in Millhaven in this one. But this is the true, at least presumably so, the true Millhaven, whereas that was kind of, if you will, another shadow. I'm at a red light right now, so I'm not just completely blowing off safety, just so everybody's aware, or whatnot in that book. Fascinating series. I think it's one where don't know too much about it going in. That's why I'm trying to keep spoilers light, even for the previous 2 books. Just go in, know that you're going to have to think, know that your brain is going to be working throughout this series. Be on the lookout for those intentional contradictions. In fact, I would recommend reading these 3 books as close together as you can. They're long, they're dense, so if you're like me, sometimes you read a really long book and you need something a little shorter in between, and I get that, but if you can, don't do that. Just read one right after the other, because you're going to catch more of those contradictions, more of that duality, and get more thematically out of the book. So, love The Throat, love the trilogy. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how Lost Boy, Lost Girl, and In the Night Room tie into this. I believe that the Blue Rose murders are essentially done at this point, but Millhaven's obviously back, Tim Underhill's back, so we should have some pretty good continuation, I would suspect, of some of the themes and plots that we've had going on up to this point in the Tim Underhill series. But 5 stars for The Throat, 5 stars overall for the trilogy. I would rank them Coco, The Throat, those 2 really close together, and then just a teeny bit below those 2 is Mystery, but certainly all 3 enjoyable. Peter Straub has really knocked these out of the park. He's shown his genius as a writer. Great books, pick them up. you're not going to be disappointed. So 5 stars for The Throat. And that is all for now. I will actually be recording, as I said, the World's End review, which I'll probably put up first since it's a bit more timely than a novel that's 20 years old. So a little behind the scenes, you're going to see these reviews published out of order or whatnot, but I'll be back with that one later tonight. But that's all for now. I'm Ben DiBono, and this is the Sci-Fi Christian. We didn't crash. Goodbye.